Okay. We are up to section number 6. Let's just do a quick recap. We have begun the laws of Tefillin, which comes in number 10 in the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch. After we've gotten our day started. We've learned about the value of making a bracha. We spoke about the tzitzis and the talis, and now we speak about the tefillin. We started by speaking about the importance of the mitzvah. Something that I discovered today in the original Shulchan Aruch is that so powerful is the mitzvah of tefillin that on the day of judgment on Yom Kippur, this mitzvah alone can tip the scale in either direction, meaning doing this mitzvah can tip the scale in to get a good judgment or vice versa. As we mentioned, it's greater than any other mitzvah in that it is equated to the entire Torah. The entire Torah is equated to tefillin, so that was just something to add over what we mentioned. Therefore, we spoke about being sure to get kosher tefillin, the advantage of high quality tefillin, to maintain your tefillin, the reward for tefillin. Anybody remember what it was? What it is? Longevity. And then we spoke about how it is a sign of Hashem upon us. We spoke about the earliest time for tefillin. Interestingly, the Torah itself doesn't mention that this is a mitzvah that has to be done by the daytime. When it comes to tzitzis, it says that you should see them. So we understand, Terry, you already gave a little intro over there talking about seeing. So the Torah says seeing the tzitzis, so we know that the mitzvah of wearing a talis is during the day. But it doesn't say such a thing with regards to the tefillin. The truth is that it was only the rabbis that instituted that tefillin should only be worn during the day. Why? Because if they were to also be worn by night, people would possibly fall asleep in them. And that would be very disrespectful to the tefillin. So therefore, we only put on tefillin during the day, and we spoke about the earliest time for that. We spoke about how it comes after the talis. We spoke about where exactly we place the tefillin, on the weaker hand, on the bicep, towards the heart, and the head tefillin directly between the eyes, above the original hairline, below the place that infants' heads pulsates, which is, there's like a little softer part of the skull on a child's. So we're talking about between that area over there. And the knot in the back should be, let's try this. The bottom of where the hair grows. So that would be around there. That would be too low. And that would be too high, right over there. So if you fasten your straps nice and tight, then it will make sure that the knot is in the right place and the box is in the right place. And that will help you make sure that you have your head on straight. Okay, then we got up to putting on the tefillin. We went through the process of that. We do it standing, although Sephardim put on the hand tefillin sitting for Kabbalistic reasons. We first take out only the hand tefillin, we put it on our hand, then we make the bracha, and then we tighten it because the mitzvah is to tie the tefillin. And so when we tighten it, that's doing the mitzvah. So first we made the bracha, and then we did the mitzvah, and then wrap 7 times. The same goes for the head. We spoke about the bracha on the head tefillin, wrapping around the middle fingers. That is a summary of putting the tefillin on. Okay. And then finally, we mentioned at the end of yesterday that we always put on the hand tefillin even before the head tefillin. So if you accidentally took the head tefillin out first, you might say that once it's already in your hands, you may as well get on with it. We say no, because the Torah clearly says you should bind them as a sign on your arms and as a sign between your eyes. So since the Torah makes that order, it means that the head tefillin have to be put on after the hand tefillin. Now, later we'll learn that they're actually 2 very separate mitzvahs. If somebody is unable to do both, he could do one without the other. So, I mean, maybe I'm going a bit ahead of time with this comment, but what happens if somebody doesn't have a hand? So then they still put on the head tefillin. But the big question is, what happens if somebody doesn't have a head? But you'll have to wait for that because we're not up to there yet. But it's time to get thinking. Okay. So that brings us to halacha number 6, where we speak about not having any intervening substances. Nothing must intervene between the tefillin and the flesh, whether in regard to the tefillin of the arm or the tefillin of the head. But short hair does not constitute a separation because it is normal to have it. So the definition of a separation is something that's shouldn't usually be there or wouldn't usually be there. A little bit of hair is not a problem. However, people who grow long waves of hair, besides the fact that it is detestable and arrogant, okay, let's keep these things in context. Earlier, we spoke about one of the ways that Jewish dress code is unique is that there's a central theme of modesty and toning down and not kind of getting too much attention. Obviously, each person on the level that they're at, I wouldn't say that as the first thing to somebody if they're looking to grow in their connection to Hashem, but there is that concept of not being too showy. Again, not something that needs to be repeated outside of this context, because a person needs to be on the level where they're ready for that. But it also causes an issue with the tefillin, because if the person has long hair, then it's getting in the way of the tefillin. That said, nonetheless, you would still put tefillin on. He's just saying that that's not ideal. I remember actually one of my uncles who really annoyed me. He had one son, one of my cousins, who was growing his hair really long and he couldn't stand it. And he used to constantly complain, what about the tefillin? What about the tefillin? You know, there's it's getting in the way of your tefillin. Anyhow, moving along. So any intervening substances. So the same goes for the arm. I guess you want to be nice and clean. If there was like threads or hair, if there was anything that shouldn't be there, then that's an interruption to the tefillin. I'm not sure if the kitzur will cover this, but what happens if a person has a cast? So a cast is pretty thick. So let's leave the cast aside for a moment, because I don't remember exactly regarding that. But with regards to a Band-Aid, so the truth is that if the person is unable to remove the Band-Aid, they would put the tefillin on top of the Band-Aid. But we're talking about first best choice and second best. So the kitzur is kind of keeping things simple. But when you have a more complicated situation, it's a good opportunity to ask a rabbi. Simply speaking, make sure that when you're putting on your tefillin, you pull out your shirt, because sometimes if you've got a long sleeve shirt or even short sleeve, the shirt can kind of drop its way into the tefillin while you are putting them on, and then it's actually getting in the way. So make sure to pull it out. The same thing goes for the head tefillin. Make sure that you just shuffle your yarmulke after you put on the tefillin, because it could happen that the straps go onto the yarmulke, and then again, the yarmulke is intervening. So make sure that the tefillin are lying nice and snug. Okay, that takes us to the knot touching the box. Care should be taken that the knot of the hand tefillin should always be moved, should not be moved away from the bias, from the box. And even when the tefillin are in their bag, you should be careful about this. This is pretty tricky, because since you put on your tefillin, and then when you wrap the tefillin, so naturally the knot just drifts away. So what a lot of sofrim do is they actually tie the knot to the box with some kind of piece of string or something, so it's fastened against the tefillin, because that knot should always be against the tefillin. And that is why, if you're not sure which box is which, if you get your boxes mixed up, so you'll see that the hand tefillin has the side of the box looks like it's been cut out. It looks almost like it's broken off. The reason for that is because that way, even when you pack away your tefillin, the knot can still be nice and snug against the box. So that's an easy way to distinguish between the box of the hand tefillin and the head tefillin. Now, why? I was wondering, why should the knot always be touching the box? So I opened up the original Shulchan Aruch, and the Shulchan Aruch says, based on reasons that are mentioned in the Kabbalah. Okay, I ran to my library and I pulled out a Zohar in volume 3. And I tried having an understanding over here. And to be honest, it's quite above my head as well, which is maybe why the Shulchan Aruch just says based on Kabbalistic reasons, that it doesn't actually tell us what the reason is. But the Zohar is talking about the Shema. It's talking about the first phrase, Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. And it's speaking about all the different letters. And he says that the 4 boxes corresponds to the Aleph and the Ches of Echad. And the Dalet corresponds to the knot. And the concept of having the knot against the box has to do with something along the lines of unifying Hashem, or the different levels of godliness. But that would be for another class. Okay. Another point is that the letter Yud should always be facing the heart. We will see when this is relevant in a moment. The base into which the strap is inserted should be above, and the bias itself should be below. So meaning that if this is the box, then the strap will be on that side so that the tefillin are hanging downwards, rather than having the strap on the bottom with the tefillin hanging upwards. Now, why would you wear it backwards? We'll see in a moment. In extreme circumstances, for example, a left-handed person who wears tefillin on his right arm. So the tefillin are designed, if you are a righty, so you're putting tefillin on your left hand, so then there's the box, so then the knot sits right over here. Now we've just mentioned, or we are mentioning, that the knot should always be close to the heart. But if you now move this tefillin to the other hand, for the right-hand person, then where's the knot going to be? It's going to be on the outside, but it's supposed to be towards the inside. So what happens if you have a left-handed person that's forgotten his tefillin and he's borrowing a pair of tefillin, or vice versa? So what he's going to actually say is, you could turn the whole tefillin around so that the strap will be on the bottom and the box will be above. So under those circumstances, you actually turn the tefillin. They're not quite upside down because they're still sitting firm on your hand, but you're turning them in such a way that the area that the strap goes through is further down and the box is sitting above it. Okay, this sounds a little bit more on the technical side, but it's quite relevant because it could happen. It could happen that you have a left-handed person. I'm a left-handed tefillin wearer, so this relates to me. Many a time throughout my life, I have had to borrow a pair of tefillin and ended up doing just that, turning the tefillin with the area that the strap goes through on the bottom, so that way the knot will still be towards the heart. Okay. Okay, so we've gotten our tefillin on, and now we're going to talk about not interrupting between the hand and head placement. And this is quite relevant because we put on tefillin when we come to shul in the morning, if we're doing it at shul, and if we're coming to shul. Let's stop and make a quick prayer that may Hashem restore health to the world so that everybody could be healthy and that we could go to shul in the morning. But we come to shul and we put on our tefillin right away. And that's just when people are still walking into shul. Now, how's it? And then the conversation begins, but you're busy putting on your tefillin. So he says it is very important not to talk between when you put on the hand tefillin and the head tefillin. So you've just made the bracha on your hand tefillin, you're busy strapping it up, and Yankel Beryl walks in and he says, was machst du, how you doing? And then basically you got to just kind of like 1 minute, but you can't speak because you don't want to make any interruption. In fact, I'm not even sure if you should make signs with your hands, but from the hand tefillin to the head tefillin, no interruptions at all. Why? Because the Torah says it shall be a sign for you upon your hand and a remembrance between your eyes. And meaning one right after the other, meaning immediately after you put the sign on your hand, put the remembrance between your eyes with no interruption in between. Again, they're two separate mitzvahs, but the Torah is saying that they should be placed tightly together. This remembrance requires the instantaneous putting of the shel rosh after the shel yad, meaning the head tefillin rosh after the yad hand tefillin, in order that there be one continuum for both of them. Even if you hear kaddish or you hear kedusha, you may not interrupt, but rather remain silent and concentrate on what the congregation is saying. So you wouldn't even answer amen to kaddish or kedusha because this is an absolute no-no. However, if you hear someone reciting the bracha lahaniach tefillin, this is an interesting one. So you put on your tefillin and you make the bracha, and while you're busy strapping up, Yankel Shperl right next to you pulls out his tefillin, and then he makes his bracha. So there would be no issue with answering amen. Why? Since the response of amen is an affirmation that you believe in the mitzvah of tefillin, so then it's not an interruption. It's not that you're getting involved in something else. By answering amen to his tefillin bracha, you're still solely focused on your tefillin. Okay? He says, even regarding the tefillin of Rabbeinu Tam, some people put on a second set of tefillin and they don't make a bracha. So even if there is no bracha being recited, this is equally forbidden to interrupt between the hand and the head tefillin. However, since there is no bracha being recited, you would be able to answer Kaddish and Kedusha. Okay. If you did by mistake make an interruption, if you spoke between putting on the hand tefillin and the head tefillin, then you would need to make another bracha when you put on the head tefillin. You would have to say again, lahaniach tefillin, which means you'd be making a total of 3 brachas, because the second you speak, you lose your hand tefillin bracha, and you wanted to keep that bracha, so you'll have to repeat that bracha on the head tefillin. Or for those that only make a bracha on the hand tefillin, they would then have to make the bracha al mitzvah tefillin. So that's one of the things going on over here, that you're wanting the bracha to stay, and if the second you speak, you lose your bracha, and so you got to repeat another bracha. So that's just reiterating, not interrupting between the hand and head tefillin. And finally, let's talk about intention. And this is a lot to think about. So maybe it's worth Googling the links on our website, jti.com/live, and actually copying this paragraph over, so that, and maybe even printing it out. So when you put on tefillin, you can think about what the tefillin are all about. Have in mind when putting on tefillin that HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the Holy One, blessed is He, commanded us to put on tefillin, which contain 4 sections of the Torah. So in the box of the head tefillin, you see there's like 3 lines down the middle. There are actually 4 completely separate boxes. If you've ever seen in the inside of the tefillin, there are 4 separate compartments, and each compartment has another passage. In the hand tefillin, there's also 4 separate passages. They're just all rolled up in it's written on one long piece of parchment that's rolled up, but again, it's 4 passages. So this is what you should have in mind. Hashem has commanded us with this mitzvah, in which we put the 4 sections of the Torah, which speak about the oneness of Hashem's name and the exodus from Egypt, when we became a nation. So that's what we should bear in mind. The tefillin, and more than that, the tefillin are put on the arm opposite the heart and the head opposite the brain, in order that we remember always the miracles and wonders that Hashem did for us. Meaning in our mind and in our heart, we need to think about Hashem, which teach us of His unity and His power and control over the heavenly and earthly worlds, to do with them as He wills. It also teaches us that we must subject to Him, meaning we should dedicate our lives to Him. The soul which resides in the brain, and also the heart, meaning our mind should be committed, dedicated to Hashem, and our heart should also be drawn towards Hashem, which is, so the head, which is the brain, and the heart, which is the source of desire and thoughts, they should all be directed towards Hashem. By doing so, we will remember the Creator and restrain our indulgences, meaning sometimes we get up to trouble, and the only reason we ever get up to trouble is because we forget. We forget about our marriage with Hashem. And so, and fulfill that which is written, and you will not turn aside from your hearts and after your eyes, which we say in the Shema. Therefore, it's written in the Tefillin, between your eyes, meaning keep it in front of your head. So Tefillin is a great way to see that you're wired up in the right direction. Your head is on track, your mind is on track, everything's in line, so that you're ready to go about your day and bring God into this world and serve our Creator. Thank you for joining us. Wishing you a wonderful Shabbos.